Hello, everybody. I'm a practicing therapist and a doctoral student of psychology. Today, we're going to talk about the most attractive male hobbies according to research. The research is going to be in the description box, but I'm going to also discuss what the findings are in the research in case it's not accessible to everybody, considering I am a student for my PhD. I have access to these things, but not everybody does. The first hobby that seems to have a lot of research behind it is specifically musical engagement. It could be playing an instrument, but it could also be singing, like vocal connection. And research actually indicates that the information that ladies or individuals in general can deduce or understand about an individual can be based on how they play music or how the music influences them. It's actually interesting because there's a different direction to this, okay? So playing an instrument or singing can be attractive, but also there's also research mentioning that it is attractive being drawn to music or wanting to express yourself emotionally through these types of things. So it seems like women find it attractive because it shows a lot of different variables to emotional expression, not just verbal or physical, but the fact that you will use your emotion to somewhat influence the music that you play or how you sing or what songs you're singing. So that is actually the reason why it seems, based on a lot of the research, why musical engagement is one of the most attractive characteristics and hobbies for men in particular. The next one is very similar, but I put it in a separate bullet point because the experiments for this is a little bit different. There are different research I used for it, and that's creativity. I'm just going to say general creative expression because it's not just musical engagement. It can be used any sort of creative engagement. That could be like painting, sketching, drawing, pottery. I don't know much about creativity, as maybe you can tell just based on the fact that I'm not good with thinking of creative hobbies off the bat, but multiple experiments and research does find that creativity can increase attractiveness while assessing potential partners. And interesting enough, even compensating for lower physical attractiveness. So, creativity can sometimes trump physical attractiveness. And again, very similar, there is that expressive component, which a lot of women find very attractive. The fact that he is able to express himself in a lot of ways. Sometimes it can be perceived as like emotional sensitivity or vulnerability. But another way that we can also see this influence is it may be another way of showing her how he shows how much he cares about her through a creative expression. This could mean that it's possible that he can paint her something for Valentine's Day, that he can be more creative with her possibly in other avenues, maybe physically in the bedroom. He can be more creative with the engagement that he plans. And so this could be another reason why women find it very attractive that he's creative, because he can be creative romantically as well. He can translate that attribute into their relationship. And that does make sense to me. I think that makes a lot of sense. The next one is, I feel like, pretty obvious, but it is true. There's research on both genders for this one as well, but any sort of physical or active hobby. Now, I'm going to mention something. The actual hobbies have not been directly expressed commonly in like peer review studies, but fitness is a reliable attractive trait. So the hobbies that I'm going to mention were not necessarily researched as specifically as the creative ones. So hiking, running, and outdoor sports does have some link signaling physical attractiveness, like it signals fitness and health for the man, and that has been studied, and then that in particular becomes attractive. So it's a little bit of a stretch, but it is still there. It's just not as like deeply researched as the creative pursuits, which I think you can imagine, because creative pursuits have a lot of angles: emotional connection, vulnerability, how you articulate your feelings, whereas physical attributes, it's just a very, select variables in comparison. But yes, physical hobbies are attractive. The next one is any sort of traveling or exploration. And the research does show it signifies curiosity, adaptability, and openness, all traits which are attractive for women. And particularly curiosity and adaptability, openness as well, of course, does show the flexibility within a romantic relationship in a marriage. So you might be curious about her. You might adapt to some of the characteristics she brings within the marriage, and that allows her to feel safer and less resistant to committing to you because she feels like you'll be able to understand her. And a lot of women, what I've noticed as a therapist, I work with a lot of couples, a lot of them do subconsciously and consciously expect their partner to lead and dominate in the relationship. And so often she's expecting that he will adapt himself and he'll structure the marriage in a certain way where both of them are happy, but she doesn't really see herself adapting as much. Now she's gonna be, I don't know how to explain it, but she's going to listen to the things that he has to say and respect. But she almost feels like her character is not as rigid, not her integrity, but her personality and her character is not as rigid as his, because there's a part of her that wants to be flexible to how he leads their family. That may have not made sense, so I'm going to try and give an example. And I think this is part of why the traveling and exploration, the adaptability is really important. Let's say, for example, they are a Christian family. And she's always grown up believing in the teachings of the Bible. And perhaps maybe she doesn't necessarily have a particular branch, but maybe her church it's a Baptist church, let's just say. But she doesn't necessarily follow those types of things. But maybe one day he decides that he wants to really be very rigid about Christianity and he wants to raise his family more Christian. She's going to follow that, right? Let's say he wants them to have prayers for their family and their marriage. Typically, she's going to follow that. Whereas if a lady starts doing that, men will be a little bit more resistant. And she wants him to have a little bit of adaptability so that she can get some of the say in the marriage. Because more likely women are a little bit more naturally, I could be wrong, but I've seen this and there is research on it, willing to adapt because she assumes that he's the dominant person, which is pretty common in marriage. And so having some adaptability just makes her feel like not necessarily that she's dominant, not really, but more so that a little bit of the things that she expresses or wants can also be explored as well. The next one is any sort of photography. This one was particularly researched, and in general, this is creative as well. But why I brought photography up is it actually shows a reflection of like self-expression and creativity in a different lens. Sometimes it can also be seen like very romantic. Maybe he takes pictures of like sunsets, or he can take pictures of their dates or things like that. And so that's why I brought photography a little bit separate. The next one has both genders, but I'm just sticking to attractive hobbies for men. Performing arts, particularly acting, but in general, this is often tied to confidence and expressive behaviors and attributes, which we can see is one of the most common reasons why women find things attractive in general. She wants him to be confident and expressive. I think most people know that. And these traits are linked to desirability in social psychology research, in relationships, and also these traits can translate onto friendships, job opportunities, etc. And the last one is any sort of intellectual activities, particularly reading was something that was brought up in a couple of the research, but in general, it just ties to intelligence and curiosity, which again makes her feel like she can lean on him. He'll be able to solve issues for her, solve issues for their family, but also that he's curious about her and her life and that she feels taken care of and loved. So this is some of the traits, the hobbies that women find attractive based on research. I hope this video is helpful to somebody. Please like, subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.